It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
And welcome into another edition of Musso at the box. LSU defeats Ole Miss 4-2 to claim the series. Standout performances all around for the Tigers. We'll talk about Tommy White. We'll obviously talk about what happened on the mound. But more importantly, it is a series win for LSU. Their fourth series win out of the last five here as they close out the regular season. Game 3 remains. LSU now 12 wins in conference play, sitting at 12-17. If they can close out with a sweep, they will be at 13-17 and have to feel pretty good about their lot when getting in to the NCAA Tournament field of 64. If they don't sweep the series, then they will obviously have work to do. We will go through Game 2, recap it, preview Game number 3, and also get you an update on where LSU's NCAA Tournament resume stands, because there have been some changes with that I want to touch on here before we get out. So smash the like button, get subscribed up to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, get subscribed to your favorite podcast app. That is appreciated as well, and follow me, of course, on social media. Let's get started, y'all. Let's get right down to it. And if you're going to start recapping Game 2, LSU Ole Miss, you start no other place than Luke Holman. Luke Holman was phenomenal in this ball game for LSU. You look at the final line, you see 6 2/3, you see 2 earned runs, no walks, 9 strikeouts, 96 pitches, 69 of them for strikes. But if you want to dig deeper, we can absolutely do that. Luke Holman was absolutely locked in, retired the first 10 batters of the ball game, and then Andrew Fisher reached on a check swing, that dribbled right past the mound and beat the shift because Tommy White was shifted over, kind of playing more towards the shortstop position rather than third base. That is how the first 11 batters of the game went for Ole Miss, and for the longest time, until the 6th inning, that was the only hit against Luke Holman, and it didn't even leave the infield. It didn't even leave the infield grass. It was a check swing, bunt. That's how locked in he was. If you weren't further proof of how locked in Luke Holman was, he had everything working for him on the mound. Like, he was dialed, but that slider was so crisp for Holman on Friday afternoon at the box. Got strikeouts with his fastball, slider, and the curveball. 3 different pitches, again, showing you how locked in he was. Thought Nate Yeskie called a great game and mixed it up very, very well. The biggest positive, though, for Holman is the walk column. 0 walks. We had talked about that, highlighting it. That had not been a problem for Luke Holman really until the second half of SEC play. You just knew he'd go out there and throw strikes and be all over the zone and move the ball up, down, around. It didn't matter. Like, he has great command. That's Luke Holman. But in his last 27 2/3 innings coming into the game against Ole Miss, he had walked 17 batters, and that's too many. Now, he managed to pitch around a lot of it, but that still created unnecessary traffic on the base paths. It's running your pitch count up. It's shortening how long you can go into a ball game. 0 walks for Luke Holman on Friday afternoon. That was massive from him. And it looked like he was going to be able to get you through 7. Ultimately, the stuff kind of got a little flat there towards the end, and LSU made a great decision. Jay Johnson pulled him right when he should, and you went to Christian Little, so we will get into that. But, man, Luke Holman was incredible for LSU on Friday. Really set the tone, and it's just what you needed. You know, you're looking to win all 3 of these. You have to, you can't win all 3 if you don't win the first one. You can't win all 3 if you don't win the second. Well, LSU's done that, and a large part to Gage Jump and obviously to Luke Holman, and now they have a chance to go out and sweep. So just a massive hat tip to Holman. I thought he was phenomenal. If you want to go through the game a little bit, a little bit more, in the bottom of the first, Tommy White gets LSU on the board. He is just on another level hot right now. I know he had an at-bat in that 6th inning that wasn't great, but up until then, he's just been awesome. Tommy White has 6 hits so far in this series. They've played 2 games. He has 6 hits in 2 games. Really, he had 6 hits in the series by the bottom of the 5th. So, I mean, he's really seen it down the stretch here for LSU, and that's massive. You look at the bottom of the 1st, he homers, solo shot to get LSU on the board off of Liam Doyle, and it was a 1-2 pitch, a fastball up really around Tommy's neck, and he somehow got the barrel to it and drove it well over the bleachers in in left field, and LSU takes the 1-0 lead. You go to the bottom half of the 2nd inning, and you get production with 2 outs from the bottom of LSU's lineup, and we've talked so much about that. When LSU's going good, that's what it looks like. The bottom of the lineup produces, and they did that. Larson gets credited with a double, but he hit a little bloop to center field. It took a hop and just scooted underneath Ethan Groff's glove and ultimately it got far enough away from him that it allowed Larson to take second. It didn't touch Groff's glove, so it goes down as the double. No error assessed on the play. But then Alex Milazzo, 2 pitches later, again with 2 outs out of the 9-hole, singles up the middle and drives Larson in. So we've talked a lot about timely hitting, situational hitting for this team. It wasn't great in totality in this ball game, but early it was, and that was a great example of that. And another clutch hit for Alex Milazzo. The batting average is not going to jump off the page at you. It's probably around 254 or somewhere in that range for Milazzo. But the hits that he has had, and specifically down the stretch, they have been clutch hits. He has come up in big moments for LSU. You can look at the Texas A&M series. You can obviously look at the Auburn series. And now, that moment right there against Ole Miss, he's come up with the clutch hit. And that's ultimately what this team needs. LSU would have opportunities in the 3rd. Tommy White doubles to lead off that inning. And you have Jones, Stravinsky, Pearson coming up. You feel good, but Jones strikes out. He had a really tough day. Really wasn't competitive at the plate on Friday. Golden sombrero for Jones, the 4 strikeout game, but he should bounce back. He's been pretty consistent this year, but that was a rough go of it. And then you had flyouts to left by both Stravinsky and Pearson, and off the bat, both of those looked like they had a shot to get down, but they just carried, and you came up empty there, and that was disappointing to see, especially with that part of the order up. In the bottom of the 4th, again, the leadoff man would reach. Stephen Milam, who is also having himself a whale of a weekend, singles up the middle, but you would have 3 straight flyouts with a stolen base mixed in between. That would end that. Then you go to the bottom of the 5th, and this is where LSU, here we go now for the 3rd straight inning, the leadoff man reaches. Braswell singles to left center field. Tommy White comes back up, doubles. That was his 6th hit of the weekend. And you have runners at 2nd and 3rd with nobody out, and that chases Liam Doyle from the game. That's twice now, and we talked about this in the preview. LSU's ability against starting pitching. They've been really good there, and that's twice in this weekend they've knocked the Ole Miss starter out of the game without them completing 5 innings. Riley Maddox didn't even make it through the 4th, and Liam Doyle made it through the 4th but did not record an out in the 5th. I was impressed by Liam Doyle, though. I want to hat tip him because he's got really good stuff. I liked his stuff a lot. The fastball could get, up to 94 at times from the left side. He had a really nice slider to go along with that. I thought he pitched really well, and LSU really had to battle to knock him out of the game, but they did. You go to Josh Mallitz, and here's the situation you're in. You're in a situation very similar to the one you had in that 3rd inning. Runners in scoring position, nobody out. Jones, well, less than 2 outs, I should say. This was nobody else. Jones, Stravinsky, Pearson due up. You came up empty in the 3rd. You did not in the 5th, and it's a credit to Stravinsky and Pearson. Jones battled hard, worked a 2-2 count, fouled off some pitches, but ultimately popped up to the right fielder, and it was not deep enough to score Braswell. But Hayden Stravinsky comes up and understands the situation. At this point, it's a 2-0 ball game in the 5th inning. Ole Miss is willing to concede outs for runs, and they had, their infield kind of playing back, and Stravinsky, not trying to do too much, hits like a 3-hopper to 3rd base. You're going to be able to throw him out, but you're not going to be able to throw Braswell out, and he got a great jump from 3rd base as well. So that gets the job done. Pushes a run across, manufacturing. It's what we talked about with them with advancement opportunities. Is it a hit with runner in scoring position? No, but it's an advancement opportunity, and those can score runs as well. And Stravinsky did that right there, and it was great. Josh Pearson comes up. He does follow with the hit with a runner in scoring position. So Tommy's on third, obviously, at that point. And Pearson lines a single, beats the shift to right field, scores Tommy White, and LSU takes the 4-0 lead. And those were massive runs because in the top of the sixth, that's when Ole Miss got on the board, and it happened with the Luke Hill homer. And off the bat, I didn't think there was a chance that ball got out of the park. It was a low liner that just scraped over the fence, but it made it out. I mean, it looked like sure it could get over Larson's head, but not leave the yard. It did, unfortunately. It was really one of the only balls that was hit hard off of Luke Holman all day long. That was the first one to leave the infield, the second one to leave the infield. Birch singled to right to get on base. But it cut LSU's lead in half. And from there, LSU had a lot of opportunity offensively, and they could not come through in the second half of the ballgame. That was a little bit disappointing. The leadoff man would reach again in the bottom of the sixth. With Bingham, you'd actually have first and second, nobody out off of walks. The bases would be loaded with walks, and then Tommy White would strike out, and Jared Jones would strike out, and that was just a really disheartening thing to see from them at that point in the game. I mean, White had been as hot as anyone, and we're not going to crush Tommy White. He's got 6 hits on the damn weekend. But in that spot, you really need him to come through, and ultimately he couldn't. That could have been the dagger inning for LSU there. Bases loaded, less than 1 out, and you get 2 strikeouts from your 2 best RBI guys. That is a tough pill to swallow, but it's what happened. In the 7th, that's when Ole Miss is finally able to chase Luke Holman. 2 2-out singles chase Holman from the game. You bring in Christian Little. He strikes out Randall on 3 pitches. Looked awesome. Did have some struggles when you brought him back out for the 8th. And you look at first and second, nobody out with Andrew Fisher coming up, Ole Miss's best hitter, leading home run guy, leading RBI guy. He represents the go-ahead run in that spot. They go to Griffin Herring, and Herring goes strikeout, ground out through 2, 3, and 4 in that Ole Miss lineup. That was the biggest outs of LSU season. I mean, that is not hyperbolic. There is no overstating what Griffin Herring did in that spot. The biggest outs of LSU season, and he has come through for you in that type of spot time and time and time again this year. Jay Johnson, after the game, said he's had an All-American type season, and he is 100% absolutely correct. Griffin Herring has been awesome. He's had 1 bad outing in conference play, and it was against Alabama. But other than that, and this was the second time in the weekend for Herring, the first time you've seen that all season long, obviously the first time you've seen him on back-to-back days, and he was crisp. I mean, absolutely crisp through 21 pitches, followed up the 10 that he threw Thursday night, so he's at 31 heading into game number 3. But those outs were massive. And then, after LSU couldn't capitalize on an opportunity in the bottom of the 8th, you throw Herring back out there for the 9th, and he goes fly out, ground out, and LSU wins the ball game. So, I mean, just a great start from Holman, some great situational offense early in the ball game. You'd like to see them not go in the shell late, but, you'll credit Mendez, who Ole Miss brought it out of the bullpen. The freshman was phenomenal. Again, up to 95 with the fastball from the left side, and just had an absolutely wicked breaking ball. So, hat tip to him. I think he gave up 1 hit in the ball game, if memory serves me correct. Yes, he gave up 1 hit. Did walk 2, and they were ultimately able to chase him, but 2 1/3 shutout. He really stabilized the game for Ole Miss. He was awesome. But the Tigers get the win, and that's what's most important. We can look toward Game 3 momentarily. Let's touch on the resume. So LSU entered the ball game against Ole Miss with an RPI ranked 34th. It is now up to 32 at the time of this recording, so LSU moved up 2 spots. The caveat here, when you look at quad 1 wins, LSU is sitting on 6. With the loss, Ole Miss is now dropped out of the RPI top 25, which means they will no longer count quad 1 against LSU, or I should say for LSU. When you look at a quad 1 designation in home games, it's teams ranked 1 through 25 in the RPI. It's 1 through 60 for the neutral, and I believe it's like 1 through 40 for neutral, 1 through 60 for road games. So right now you're looking at Ole Miss being a quad 2 opportunity for LSU. Now, if Ole Miss were to beat LSU in game number 3, they would move back up and you'd get 2 more quad 1 wins. But obviously what you want if you're LSU, sweep Ole Miss, get to 13 wins, feel good about your tournament case going into Hoover, having to do minimal to no work there to solidify your spot. That's what you want, but it's not an open and shut case that Ole Miss couldn't get there. And the reason I say sweep and get your case as strong as you can is because even if Ole Miss moves up back into the, quad 1 designation, they go one and done in Hoover, they're going to drop right back down, and you're going to be in the same spot, and you might not have gotten to 13 conference wins. So that's your focus. The other thing for LSU is they did gain a quad 1 win today, even with Ole Miss dropping out. ULL has moved in to quad 1 status now with an RPI ranked 36th. The Raging Cajuns enter that 1 through 40 range for a quad 1 win in a neutral site. So that puts LSU at 6. We were keeping an eye on Xavier. That's just not even worth keeping an eye on anymore. Xavier has laid a complete egg this weekend, losing a series to Villanova, who has an RPI in the 200s. So Xavier will be quad 2 wins for LSU, and you move on from there. But if you're looking at LSU's resume, you have a RPI ranked 32nd right now. Strength of schedule is 21st. You're sitting on 6 quad 1 wins. Your metrics are plenty good enough. Now you're also looking, I believe, at 16 top 50 RPI wins. Your metrics are great. If you can get to 13 conference wins by sweeping Ole Miss, you're going to feel fantastic about your tournament resume going into Hoover, having to do little to no work. If you lose game number 3 against Ole Miss and you're sitting at 12 and 18, you're going to have to go win a game or 2 in Hoover to get into this field. Or I should say what we've been saying, to have a resume worthy of selection. Because we'll go through and we'll look at the bubble, of course, when we start next week. Before we look into the SEC tournament, we'll go through bid stealers and all of that. But what I can say is, just doing a quick look, the bubble, it's still soft, and there's been some things that have actually worked in LSU's favor on the bubble so far early in this weekend. But we will save the full recap for that for next week after we put this series to bed. But just know, LSU's resume is looking good, like strong. LSU's resume is looking strong right now. You sweep this series, you're going to feel really good if you're the Tigers. Now, how does LSU sweep the series? Well, let's talk about it. And let's start with pitching. LSU, there's going to be certain guys that you look for in this game on the mound. Sorry, brain fart there. I think everyone's going to, obviously, the first question is who starts. I think it's one of 2 guys. I think it's either Nate Ackenhausen or Sam Dutton. Y'all know I love me some Sam Dutton. I think he's had a great year. The start against Alabama, fine, whatever. He needed 8 pitches to get through the first inning and then had some really bad luck with a passed ball and all of that ultimately chased him from the ball game in the second. I would not hate that decision starting Dutton. He has not pitched yet this weekend. They've had him up in the bullpen a little bit, but he has not pitched yet. I would not hate that. That being said, I think they go Nate Ackenhausen. And here's why. The best hitters in Ole Miss's lineup are left-handed. Like Andrew Fisher, who's the home run leader and the RBI leader, 2-hole guy, he's a left-handed hitter. Will Furness, who's had a really nice weekend against LSU, left-handed hitter. And, we could continue to go through the list. Their best hitters are left-handed. LSU's got a lot of lefty guys. I think throwing act to get off to a good start against I don't want to say a left-handed heavy lineup, but a lineup where the best hitters are left-handed, I think matches in your favor. The reason I could see it not potentially, being Nate Ackenhausen is just he threw over 20 pitches on on Thursday night. How deep could you really get him? But for me, it's like that doesn't matter because whoever you throw, you're looking for them to be an opener anyway. But that's maybe the one reason I could see them go to Dutton over is because Dutton's completely fresh and he hasn't thrown yet, and Ack has. But for me, I think they go Nate Ackenhausen. That is the path I think they go. Now, who follows Ackenhausen? I'll say it again, y'all. All hands on deck. All hands on deck. Christian Little has thrown back-to-back days. Do you really want to throw him 3 days in a row? I don't know if you want to do that, but he's certainly available to do that. Little hold on, I'm looking it up right here. Christian Little on Thursday threw 15 pitches. Christian Little on Friday threw 15 pitches. He's at 30 pitches. You could get something out of Christian Little if you absolutely need to. Griffin Herring, I know everybody's going to ask about that. Griffin Herring threw 23 pitches on Friday. He threw 10. He's at 33. Would you want to throw him 3 days in a row? I don't know. If you have to, you do. Like if you need an out, a matchup, or man, just get me the ninth, you can absolutely go back to Griffin Herring. I'm dead serious when I say all hands on deck. The only guys who should not be available in this game are Gage Jump and Luke Holman. You are fighting for your postseason life. You are fighting for your season. Go win the game at all costs. So you look at Little, you look at Herring. I think they're available. We mentioned Dutton, Justin Lohr, who they've used in like one-inning spurts here as of late and more in a matchup lefty role. I really like that. He's definitely available. You have not seen Fidel Ulloa yet this weekend, who has pitched incredibly well down the stretch for LSU, so you have him. Aiden Moffitt has not appeared, and they have used him the last 2 weekends, and he's pitched pretty well, kind of both times out. Struggled a little bit against Alabama, but that's a guy that's certainly available. You look at Thatcher Hurd. I don't really know where they stand with Thatcher Hurd, y'all, but Thatcher Hurd's got great stuff. Has he been disappointing this year? Yes, call it what it is. I know that's blunt, but call it what it is. When the way he finished last year was supposed to be your Friday night guy this year, you're expecting a big jump, and it just hasn't been there. But that is a guy with electric stuff, and he could absolutely factor in this as well. All hands on deck for LSU from a pitching staff standpoint. Jay's got his guys that he's going to go to first, and we kind of just ran through those. But then you get to Thatcher Hurd and Cam Johnson and maybe Cade Anderson and guys like that. All hands on deck. That's the motto. And here's the thing I will say, and this should come as no surprise to you who listened earlier in the week. I think LSU is going to pitch very well in Game 3. Like, I'm confident. LSU has held this Ole Miss lineup to 3 runs so far. And, I mean, they've mowed in the process. They struck out 12 on Thursday. They struck out 13. That's 25 strikeouts and 3 runs. And LSU, down the stretch, has pitched very well in Game 3. The problem is they've given up that one big inning. So if you avoid the one big inning, you're going to feel good. But LSU, in the back half of SEC play in Game number 3, has lowered their ERA by 6 runs from the first half of SEC play. It's not debatable. They are pitching better in Game 3. And I expect them to do that against Ole Miss. The key is scoring. That's what LSU has consistently done poorly throughout the year in Game number 3. We went through the numbers. In their last 10 Game 3s, LSU is hitting 141 with runners in scoring position. And while it's been good for them early in games so far this weekend, it is not sustained. It's going to have to sustain in Game 3 for them to get this. LSU, for my money, they're going to pitch well against Ole Miss in Game 3. Can they score enough runs? That's the only question I have, honestly. 141 with runners in scoring position in their last 10 Game number 3s. That has to improve because Mason Nichols, while he might not get you super deep into the game, he's been really good for Ole Miss since being inserted into the starting rotation in the back half. Fastball into the low 90s. He's got a slider and a changeup. He's a veteran guy, right-hander. I also believe, will pitch well. The situational offense, the situational moment, the tipping points in the game, can LSU make hay offensively? Because I think they will pitch well enough to win. They've done that consistently through the back half of conference play, sans a 9-run inning against Texas A&M. So, runners in scoring position. That's what we're watching. If LSU's better there, they have a great chance to get their first sweep of the year. if they can score runs, if they can score enough runs. And I know that sounds so, obvious. Oh, you got to score runs to win. You do. But they have not been good enough at that in game number 3. They've created plenty of opportunity for themselves. They just have not cashed in on those opportunities, and that's what they're going to have to do better. Y'all know we will have you covered. Full weekend recap will be coming after the weekend series. Hopefully we're talking about an LSU sweep. If not, we'll recap the game and tell you what you need to know as LSU heads into Hoover. We should be pretty close to having the SEC tournament field solidified seeding-wise. We know the 12 teams, just seeding-wise, is what you're waiting on. But LSU, with the win against Ole Miss, has guaranteed themselves no lower, or I should say, has guaranteed themselves at least a shot. They have guaranteed themselves no lower than the 11 seed. I'm pretty sure, because they want to have a tiebreaker with Ole Miss, even if they end up tied. So we'll get you all caught up on that as we go along. Smash the like button, get subscribed, follow me on social media. It's greatly appreciated. Love talking baseball with y'all, having y'all all tuning in, and be here next time for more on Musso at the Box.